Welcome back to Off the Grid, a Power Rangers podcast. I am your host, Jacob Bartley, and today this entire episode is dedicated to Power Rangers Zeo. I'm going to be giving my spoiler thoughts on the entire season, so let's jump right into it. 2 episodes ago, I should say, I reviewed Power Rangers Season 4, kind of 3.5, whatever you want to call it, which was the Alien Rangers. And prior to that, I did Season 3. If you watch those reviews, you know I did not like Season 3 or 4. I thought they were terrible, a huge step down from the first couple seasons. But man, how pleasantly surprised was I when I started watching Zeo, and I absolutely love it. It reminds me of the greatness of the first two seasons, and it's also its own new thing. Man, I didn't remember loving this property of the Zeo Rangers so much. Like, there's so many great things in there. On top of that, the Gold Ranger, oh my goodness, the Gold Ranger. Like I said, this is going to have spoilers in it, so if you have not watched Power Rangers Zeo, then do not watch this review. Go finish the season, then come back and watch this review. I'm going to be talking about spoilers in there, especially the big one, Jason's return as the Gold Ranger. Oh my goodness, I couldn't have been happier because he is my favorite character. My favorite Ranger of all time is Jason the Red Ranger, and the continuation of him in Power Rangers Zeo. But just overall, return to greatness for me. All of the bad things in Season 3 and 4, they improved upon and made much better in this season. And I gotta start with, well, here's the thing. Rita and Zed are still the villains of Season 3, but they kind of got rid of them for Zeo. The Machine Empire comes in, you got King Mondo. While King Mondo is no Zed, no Rita, never as classic, never gonna be, he's not a bad villain, and the Machine Empire is pretty cool. It's a cool concept for that time era. Imagine what a up-to-date, with special effects, Machine Empire could look. I think that would be pretty awesome. I think King Mondo could be its own cool version for the Power Rangers of Ultron or something like that from the Marvel Universe. I think the idea of King Mondo and the Machine Empire are great. I don't know about the names of his children, Sprocket and Gasket, a little too on the nose, but for the show, for Power Rangers, it makes sense. But I just love the Empire, the Machine Empire overall. I just think it's a great idea, like I said plenty of times before. And it was just good to see a decent villain in there, because in future iterations of the Power Rangers and even previous ones, we have seen terrible villains. And I'm not saying King Mondo is great, but it's just pretty much something that we can live with at least, you know. And I like King Mondo. Like I said, he's pretty powerful and he gives the Rangers a lot of trouble. So I thought that was one of the huge highlights. Of course, we have the Cogs. The Cogs are the putties of this world, this iteration of the Power Rangers. They're much better than the Tango Warriors, but not better than the putties. They're about equal level to the putties. The putties are classic, so I'm always going to love the putties as far as classic Power Rangers go. But as far as being a threat or something that I can take seriously, the Cogs are on the level of the putties. They're just mindless cannon fodder for the Power Rangers to beat up. So one element of Power Rangers Zeo that I like, I don't love, are the costumes. I think they're pretty cool for the most part. Some of them look kind of dumb. Like, honestly, I think the Red Ranger looks kind of stupid with a star on his face. But I do love the looks of pretty much the other Rangers. I love the look of the Green Ranger. I like the look a lot of the Blue Ranger. Yellow and pink look pretty cool too, and the Gold Ranger looks awesome. But a star on your face, come on. Even though I own the Red Legacy figure of the Zeo Ranger, Red Zeo Ranger, I just think they could have done something else with the red helmet, and probably that is what it is in the Super Sentai version of these Zeo Rangers. So whoever idea it was to put a star on the face or the helmet was kind of dumb. Not the person who did it, but the idea was just dumb. So I wasn't a big fan of that costume, but as far as the other costumes go, I think they look pretty cool, honestly. Nothing's ever going to touch the classic looks. The classic Power Ranger looks from Mighty Morphin Season 1 through 3 are incredible. They look so BA, if you know what I'm saying. And I think a modern, updated version of those suits looking exactly the same way, but looking more like armor instead of spandex would look amazing on screen in like a live action adaptation movie version. Even though I don't mind the movie version of the 2017 films. They looked pretty good, but I would have loved just an slightly updated version of the original costumes. So these Zeo Ranger costumes are never going to be as good as the original costumes, but I do like them a lot for the most part, other than the Red Ranger. And something else that is a huge improvement from season 3 and 4 is the Zords. The Zords are a lot better. Again, like the costumes, never going to touch the classic Megazord or any of the Zords in season 1 or 2, but I hate the animated puke throw up look of the Zords in Power Rangers season 3 and 4, and I love how they get back to how they looked like big toys in Power Rangers Zeo. I thought the Zords worked really well. You had the Zeo Zords and then you had the Super Zeo Zords. I thought they were pretty cool, and for the most part they function and work very well. It did remind me of the season 1 and 2 Zords again, so I was very happy with the Zords comparing them to season 3. Other than the Falcon Zord in Power Rangers season 3, I really disliked all those Zords, so I was very happy with this iteration of the Zords. One thing that had me very curious with this season is when Tanya shows up at the end of season 4, and then you have Tanya in the first episodes of this, and she's just a girl from Africa, and now she's a Power Ranger. Not a big fan of that idea, but it did set up a pretty cool role for Billy, because Billy was never the best fighter, and he never wanted to be involved in the action as much as the other Rangers, and he finally found a role. He backed down from being a Ranger to let Tanya be a Ranger, which doesn't make sense. I think Billy should have been the Yellow Ranger, or whatever the case may be. The only reason I'm okay with it is because there would have been a huge gender unbalance on the team. There would have been 4 boys and 1 girl, which probably would have been cool. So I'm glad they had Tanya in there for that sake. And I end up loving the Tanya character by the time we get to the end of Power Rangers Zeo, and then even in Turbo, because she's a great character. Never mind the idea that they took a random girl from Africa and made her a Power Ranger. That's dumb. But just looking at Tanya as a character, she is one of the most built characters, one of the most characters with the most depth, and one of the characters that are given the most to work with. Let's take a look at Tanya. Look, she is a singer, talented singer, dancer. She eventually has her own radio show in Power Rangers Turbo, but I shouldn't mention things in Power Rangers Turbo. She directs plays, and she does so many things, and she's so diverse, and she's one of the strongest characters we've probably ever seen in Power Rangers up to this point. And I didn't realize this until I started watching Power Rangers Zeo and a little bit of Turbo. I'm like, wow, they really went into depth in her character. She does a lot, and she's a hard worker, and it's really cool because some of the characters, like, they don't have a personality or a purpose. Like, I'm sorry, but Adam is not one of my favorite characters. He doesn't really have a personality. He doesn't have any hobbies, doesn't do other than just standing around and making random comments. He doesn't really do anything. I love Catherine, and she is somewhat of a leader in her own right, and she does have a little bit of depth to her. And the interesting thing about her is that she was a villain at first, and she becomes good, and she is kind of like a second leadership type next to Tommy in a way. So she's okay, but she doesn't get as much depth as Tanya does. Billy's great because Billy is the intellectual Power Ranger, the one who can figure this stuff out. Billy's always been great, especially later on, like in season 2 and season 3 and stuff. But it just reminds me of how much greatness Tanya is, because they just gave her so much to work with, and it kind of makes some of the other Power Rangers look bad. Like Rocky, I go back and forth with, because Rocky does have somewhat of a personality. We see him like interacting with girls, and we see a little bit of that, but not a lot of characters other than like Jason got a lot of depth, Kimberly got a lot of depth, Tommy gets a lot of depth, Tanya gets a lot of depth too, and I thought that's really cool what they end up doing with that character. Like I said, bringing her in initially was a dumb idea, but now after from seeing her arc from the end of season 4, beginning of Zeo to all the way up to Turbo, she's a great character, and I'm glad she's in there. But my point was to get to Billy. I thought Billy's role in this season was great because he's just like the tech guy, and he just helps them with everything that need their swords, their suits, anything that's going on in the power chamber. All that stuff was really cool, and I think it was a great role for the character and the actor. And they don't have to be a Power Ranger anymore. They can just do this role and really come into their own and kind of be in the forefront as far as leadership in the command chamber. Alpha kind of takes a back seat to Billy once we get to Power Rangers Zeo, which I thought was great. So we do see Zed and Rita pop up in this season eventually. They kind of are just hiding, and they're just on the run. Not on the run, but they're just driving their little camper on the moon and just staying under and hidden from the Machine Empire. Look, it's fun and cheesy and campy, but I just don't really like how they diminish the characters this way. Like, they are supposed to be these powerful beings, and they're just there for comedic relief, honestly. What they become in Power Rangers Zeo is another Bulk and Skull. In a way, Rita, Zed, and their crew become another Bulk and Skull, most of the time just cutscenes to comedic moments, which that's why I don't even talk about Bulk and Skull anymore. I talked about them in my reviews, my early on reviews, but it's just, they're classic as far as watching it as a kid, but I would rather watch episodes with them cut out because they don't play any significant role in the show for the most part. There's a few episodes where they do, which honestly I enjoy them in those episodes. Like later, I'm going to talk about this episode in a little bit, but the King for a Day episodes where they're actually on that planet with them and they help save the day, that's great. Like that gives them purpose. But when you have all this other stuff going on, the fighting and the war going on with the Power Rangers and the bad guys, and you just cut to random scenes of Bulk and Skull doing funny, stupid things, two Stooges type things, it doesn't even make sense. It takes away from the greatness of the other parts of the show. But like I said, there are elements of their role that I enjoy, like for instance in King for a Day, when they actually have a function. But for the most part, Rita and Zed, it's cool to see them, but they're basically useless. They do play a few key role moments in the season, and that's good. Like I said with Bulk and Skull, there's a purpose, there's a function, but for the most part, they're just there for comedic relief, and it's kind of, is degrading to the characters. Alright, and this is probably the biggest reason why I adore Power Rangers Zeo, is because we get to see the return of Jason. I was very upset with the departure of Jason, Zach, and Trini in Season 2 of Power Rangers, how they have stand-in actors and show the back of their heads and show them in the distance in a park, and how Tommy just automatically becomes the leader of the Power Rangers. There's no mention of Jason. If they want to pass the torch and make Tommy the leader, okay. Zordon doesn't say, "Thank you, Jason, for being such a great leader. You have meant so much to the Power Rangers. It is time to pass the torch and allow Tommy, with his great power of the White Ranger, to be the leader of the Power Rangers." It just goes straight to, "Tommy, you are now the leader of the Power Rangers." Really irked me the wrong way. And I understand the actors were demanding more money and they weren't able to get them to shoot their send-offs or whatever it was going to be. I understand that. But regardless, I was upset that those original 3 cast members left the season in the way they did in season 2. But it was redeemed somewhat with the return of Jason in Power Rangers Zeo. You don't understand how much this means to me, honestly, because he's my favorite Ranger. Austin St. John, my favorite Power Ranger. And to see him come back this way and play such a significant role, and now be the most powerful Ranger, the sixth Ranger like Tommy was, and it's kind of like flip flopped where now Tommy's the leader, and now Jason, even though he's more powerful, his powers come off as more powerful than Tommy's. They kind of reflect roles, and I loved it, and I love how he's just back going to Indigo High, and how he's just hanging out with the team. And honestly, probably my favorite like non in the suit moment, non action moment in the whole season of Power Rangers Zeo is it's a couple episodes after Jason first comes back, and they're in the gym at the juice bar, and Jason tells Tommy, "Look, I know I used to be the leader. I don't want things to go back to the way they were. I'm ready to, you're the leader now, and I'm ready to follow you." Basically, that's what Jason tells Tommy, and I thought that moment was so powerful. It reminds me of season 2 when they go in. I think it's season 1 or season. I think it might be season 1 when they go into battle together, and they're discussing their strengths, and I love their relationship, and it shows me that there was some thought being put into this dialogue, into the writing, and they took that moment in a kids show. They took the moment to allow Jason to tell Tommy, "Look, I'm not trying to take over your leadership role. I don't want things to go back to the way they were. I just want to help out and be a Power Ranger." And I thought that was amazing. And just the Gold Ranger overall, the suit looks great. The power staff, I don't know about a Pyramid Zord. Come on. The Green Ranger gets a Dragon Zord, and the Gold Ranger gets a Pyramid Zord. Not a big fan of the Pyramid Zord, but just regardless, the return of Jason, man, it means so much. And overall, just the idea of the Gold Ranger is incredible. Like this is part of the reason why I will cherish Power Rangers Zeo forever. It's like season 1, season 2, and Power Rangers Zeo are the top 3 seasons for me, and I don't know if I might like season 3, Power Rangers Zeo more than season 2. That's a debate for me to have. Honestly, I think I do. Man, I'd have to go back and rewatch it all, and then decide on that. But I think I might rank Zeo as my second favorite season after season 1. One very interesting thing to me is it's a little over halfway through the season, and they have an episode called Mondo's Last Stand, where the Power Rangers defeat Mondo. But it was cool because that led to Prince Gasket coming in, which I like Prince Gasket and Archerina. Like, I like those characters. They're stupid names. They're silly characters. But in the context of the show, I like those characters. And it led to probably my favorite series of episodes, which was the King for a Day episodes, where Tommy gets taken to this arena and he's brainwashed. His memory gets wiped, and he's kind of evil again. And Gasket convinces him that the Power Rangers are evil, and then he has to fight Jason in the arena, and he takes on the Rangers. Loved those episodes. That was great. Like, man, how cool would it be just if somehow, some way, the Power Rangers movies continue. They introduce Tommy, and they do the Green with Evil saga, and they lead on to where they become the Zeo Rangers, and then somehow in the movies Jason goes away, maybe he dies, and he comes back as the Gold Ranger, and then they do a movie adaptation of King for a Day. Wow, that would be incredible. If they don't make it, I'm gonna make it one day in the future. If I can direct movies one day, we'll see. That's the dream, right? But yeah, King for a Day, some of my favorite Power Ranger episodes ever. You could even just watch that as a series, like just however long it is. I think it's somewhere between 2 and 4 episodes, but you just watch that and just jump right in there, and it's so enjoyable. I really dug it a lot. One little cool thing, not Easter egg, but a cool cameo thing was when the Alien Rangers came back. I don't hate the Alien Rangers as in themselves, just because I didn't like the season. I do like aspects of the Alien Rangers, like I talked about when I reviewed it, like their suits, and that the White Ranger is a woman and a leader. That's awesome, and it was cool to see them back. Like, I'm glad they didn't come back for 15 episodes, but it was cool to see them there for that little time frame. All right, so one bittersweet thing was, I believe it was the last couple episodes of Power Rangers Zeo where they start to hint towards Jason's send-off. He starts to lose the powers. He can't wield them forever. And it's the Good as Gold episode where they finally send him off. And it's bittersweet because of course I would want Austin St. John and Jason to continue in Power Rangers, be part of Turbo, whatever. But it was a good send-off. I love how, like I said earlier, he hangs out with them in the high school. He has a role to play, not just as a Power Ranger, but as a friend to the Rangers. And then he meets that girl that's part of the biker gang, and he starts dating her. And you see him, he finally gets at peace. He's not a Ranger anymore. He loses the powers. And he just walks off on the beach with that girl. And I just thought it was a great send-off for Jason. Like, that's their way of telling us, like, hey, he's not a Power Ranger anymore, but he had his own happy ending. And even though it wasn't his last appearance as a Power Ranger, he was in Power Rangers Turbo, the movie, which was a cool cameo. I will be reviewing that movie sooner or later. But I just thought that this season overall was great. I'm so happy because I was under the impression that, and look, I watched all these seasons when I was a kid, but I don't remember them clearly, and I wasn't able to understand what was good and what was bad. But I'm so glad I watched them because I was thinking, like, okay, season 1 or season 2 are going to be the only great Power Rangers seasons I get to watch. But nope, Zeo surprised me, and I really, really did enjoy it. I may never watch Power Rangers Season 3 again. Maybe for continuity, but I don't desire to watch it. I may never watch Alien Rangers again. But I definitely will be watching Power Rangers Season 1, Season 2, and Zeo. Probably not Power Rangers Turbo. That's my next season review is Power Rangers Turbo. Get ready. We're going to have a very serious discussion about that season, if you will. But yes, if you can't tell, I loved Zeo. Highly recommend it. I want to know what you guys think. Do you like Zeo as much as I do? Do you think it's an improvement on Power Rangers Season 3 and Alien Rangers? Am I overhyping it? Is it overrated based on my opinion? Let me know in the comment section. I'm really curious what you think. As always, I'm your host, Jacob Bartley. This is Off the Grid, a Power Rangers podcast. Subscribe to the Comic Hero Talk YouTube channel if you love Power Rangers, if you love all things comics. I'm going to be reviewing other comic stuff here. Lately, I've only been doing the Power Rangers stuff, but I'm going to start doing some Marvel reviews. I just read Infinity Gauntlet, the trades, so I'm going to be reviewing that soon. We're going to talk some Kill or Be Killed if you've been reading that in comics. But yes, I will see you next time on Off the Grid. Comment, subscribe, like. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. Till next time, may the power protect you.